great to be back, Bo.
Oh yeah. Hey, since December, right?
Well, you said you had some podcasts without me, so it's been almost a month and a half since I've got to do this.
Yeah, but we were thinking about you the whole
I
time.
did good.
Yeah.
Good. I missed this.
Yeah, for sure. Getting to
Just chat.
get into the homes here, talk to people. So
I
Well-
wish we could video in the OR. We could record 2 or 3 podcasts in the OR every day.
yeah, I think there's been a few doctors sued over that videoing in the operating room. So let's just
Stick to the formal.
wait till that gets cleared up in the legal system before we jump into that.
Well, one thing we were talking about this morning, you mentioned we don't teach a diet here at Panhandle Weight Loss Center. Why?
Well, I think it's been a point of conversations with patients lately. This is my takeaway opinion. Diets don't work because if you're on a diet, you can be off a diet, right? So what we prefer to teach, is a lifestyle, right? And in my own life, I think about this as when you go bowling with your kids, and they put the little bumpers in the gutters.
Need some fundamentals.
Yeah,
Need
and
some
so
guides.
you got the whole bowling alley. It's a pretty wide, little, I don't know the term for the lane, the lane. So dietary, lifestyle wise, I just want to stay out of the gutters, right? There's a lot of variability amongst how to eat with that approach, but I want to avoid the things that are in the gutter. So I want to teach you how to stay out of the gutter.
I've seen some balls go over in the other lane before. It crossed the gutter. It goes completely haywire. Has that ever happened in your life?
Yes, it has. Those moments do exist where you just kind of jump over in the gutter and hit the other lane, and you get kicked out of the bowling alley. But for the most part, the way we teach or the way we talk about eating is you can't have a big list of you can't do these. Or a big list of do these. It's like, hey, if I go to Burger King or Wendy's and I'm caught in a bad situation, how do I pick through this and make a decent choice? Whereas, like, I don't know what I'm doing, just give me the Whopper, So that's, we teach lifestyles, we teach eating philosophies, we want to educate people on food and interaction with your body, but, to have a specific eating plan laid out? I mean, have you done an eating plan?
So I get that question all the time.
Yeah.
I just want to be told what to eat.
Yeah.
So here's what your answer is, and our answer is, we want to teach you principles to apply, because when you're traveling, you're not going to have your meal plan. We want you to be able to make a good choice if you pull into or you have to choose what fast food restaurant, unfortunately. Yeah. So we want to teach you how to live a lifestyle.
As I was going to say, you've signed up for a meal plan, right? In the past?
Yeah, it didn't work. It didn't go very long for me.
Yeah, so it just doesn't work. I mean, I've bought cookbooks that have like 30-day eating plans in them, and it's just one of those is it on or off type situations.
Yeah,
it's like the dishwasher. Is it running or is it not? And that's not going to get you to where you want to go. And I think a byproduct of the American approach to losing weight is why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, traditionally I would go to Jenny Craig. I would go to Weight Watchers. I would go to Metabolic Research.
It's going to whip me in shape, and then
they're going to give me this 6-week plan. They're going to sell me about $800 worth of product, and Herbalife, whatever, and I'm going to do it. Okay. What happens when you stop doing it?
Yeah.
Right? So your lifestyle, you never stop doing. You shouldn't, right? I'm committing. I identify as a healthy person. I am going to adopt a healthy lifestyle. I am going to make healthy choices.
Which,
right?
I tell you what you just said is important, is the mindset that seeing yourself as you want to be a healthy person. You see yourself as making healthy choices. It's interesting. I think it's powerful in how we think about ourselves. And for example, our patients, getting rid of that mindset that, I'm not going to be the fat person. I'm not going to be the unhealthy person. I'm not going to be the one in the family that struggles with my weight. I want to be the one that feels good. I want to lose my weight. I want to eat healthy. I want to exercise. I want to manage stress. I want to do all these things. And I think a lot of it's mindset. And so
a good majority of it. I think, I think we've had this conversation on past podcasts, but I think it is the most difficult part of weight loss surgery is the mindset, right? Like I lose all this weight. I look in the mirror and I still see my big self.
Yeah.
Or I still see my unhealthy self. So I make unhealthy choices to fit that unhealthy self.
You're not that person anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So here's what I came up with, though, because I think it's after the first year. Unfortunately, we hadn't got to do a podcast together since January 1st. But teaching patients, particularly as they get through their post-op diet, they're having to apply life. They're having to get back to real food. They're on this life journey of being healthy again. So what are some principles, those guides that they can apply?
The bumpers and the gutters?
The bumpers to keep you out of the gutters. So we were just visiting. I came up with 10 pillars of health. I hope we can get through half of them today. We can continue.
Two-part podcast?
Two-part, probably.
Okay.
And let's just talk about them.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to list them all, or do you want me to, and then we dive in, or what do you think?
Let's just go one by one.
Let's go one by one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you'll confuse my brain, and we'll be off in the gutter somewhere without our bumpers.
The bumper's going to be the theme today. So first one, I think we've talked about this a lot: eliminating all sugar out of your diet, and with that, processed carbs.
Yeah. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Right. And I look at this in two frame sets. Number one, am I trying to lose weight? Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Well, there is no room for processed sugar, mm-hmm. and very little room for natural sugar. Mm-hmm. And some people may disagree on this standpoint, because when I look at, and we did the podcast on sugar. That's a catch-all.
We could do hours on sugar.
Well, but that's a catch-all term.
Yeah.
That's fiber, that's carbohydrates, that's fructose. There's so many things that fall under the term of sugar. I think what we're referring to is the bad subset.
Yeah, it's added to everything
of sugar,
like soft drinks. It's in all kinds of processed food.
So sugar that doesn't present itself from nature, appropriately combined with other nutrients and fiber to help your body, absorb that and do the right things with it. So unopposed sugar, unopposed processed sugar. So why is that important?
Why is that important? Yeah. So back, I'd say 150 years ago, we ate maybe 6 pounds of sugar per person per year. It's a little.
And what was our obesity rate?
Nothing like it is now. I think it's less than 5%. Now we eat, I think it's 138 pounds of sugar per person per year. So it's went off the chart.
And I know I'm like sub 2, so somebody's making up for me. So
we need to measure Beau's sugar intake through the year.
Processed sugar?
Yeah.
Processed sugar?
I would love to get below 10. I have to admit, I struggle harder than Beau.
But what I'm saying is, like, if the average is 130, so there's some room there.
There's some room.
Yeah.
So what does it do to us? I think we talked about this. It's number one, causes an insulin response. Number two, the fructose in sugar causes you to be more hungry, slows your metabolism down, and you deposit it as fat, basically.
In your liver.
Yep.
Mainly.
Another thing is we're starting to see it's very inflammatory. Okay. And it's added to everything. And it has this, when you go to look at food labels, they kind of hide it in there with certain little names. They're tricky about it. But it's just everywhere.
Yeah. So do you, like, when you buy something now, do you see high fructose corn syrup on the label?
Yep.
Well,
that's it.
Yeah, yes and no. But for the most part, they've changed the name of it.
Because moms figured out.
Oh, yeah, that was a big deal like 5-10 years ago. Like, high fructose corn syrup's killing us. Oh, we'll stop eating that. Well, you stopped eating what was on the label, but did you really eliminate it? Is a bigger question.
The other thing I mentioned was like processed carbs, and I kind of lump it in there because, I use wheat as an example. Wheat's by itself it's not bad, but it's what we do to the wheat. We take the wheat kernel, we strip all the fiber off of it, we strip all the nutrition out of it, and we turn it into starch,
then we bleach it.
And then we bleach it to make our current white bread, okay? So the nutritional value of that is just all lost because you take a whole food, could be very healthy thing for you, and we make it down, we strip it down to the component that's actually the unhealthy part, which is just starch, which causes our insulin to rise and starts all those inflammatory issues in our body. So it's also what we do to our foods that have our processed carbs, or we process our carbs to get.
Yeah. We'll do a little summarization of this topic because we hear from people, what should I eat? Mm-hmm. Tell me what to eat. Mm-hmm. All right, so this is my go at what to eat in this category. Fruits. What should I eat? Berries.
Yep, lower in sugar. Natural sugar.
And appropriate fiber match.
Yep.
Right, so berries have been the least manipulated outside of strawberries. I've seen some giant strawberries lately. But when you look at bananas, apples, plums, grapes, watermelons, if you want my opinion, and that's what people are reaching out saying, I tell me how to eat. Don't eat those things. Fruit-wise, berries, okay? Vegetables, pretty much a free go.
No, I want to clarify because that may sound confusing to patients. So you would, out of all those fruits, you choose more of the berries because they tend to have less sugar. Agree?
They have equal amounts of fiber and sugar. Okay. It's well matched.
Okay.
So you're not getting...
Does that clarify?
Yeah, it's well matched, fiber per sugar. Your body knows what to do with that.
But grapes is more sugar than fiber.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they advertise these things as cotton candy now.
Bananas have more sugar than fiber.
Because we eat them ripened. Okay. So the fiber is broken down. So it's majority sugar.
Keep going. I lost your train of thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people that are saying, tell me what to eat. All right. So I just gave you a list of things not to eat and to eat.
Okay.
Vegetables, the darker the green, the better. Right. So
red, yellow, orange, all that good stuff.
Yeah. The spectrum.
Bell peppers, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to limit melanin. Vegetables that are more like melons, like a cucumber, or I'm drawing a blank right now, but I still eat those things, but very little of them. I'm going to focus more on salad and greens and onions and bell peppers and
garlic,
okra, things of that nature. Yeah. I'm going to limit probably tomato consumption. I'm going to limit watermelon.
I like tomatoes.
I love tomatoes. Like this, we're not having this conversation to discuss what we love. We're having this conversation to discuss what, if my mission is to lose weight and be healthy, what should I be eating?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that pretty clear?
Yeah.
Like, also, not on the list, protein bars, oatmeal, candy bars, things that come in wrappers, Little Debbie snack cakes. I think if you're listening to this podcast or listening to this YouTube video, and there's a question of whether a Little Debbie's snack cake is healthy enough for you,
we're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
Yeah. So, and I tell my patients, it's like we can sit down and have a conversation. For the most part, the majority of people know what they should not be eating.
You know what? I have to admit, until I got into really truly learning about nutrition, I couldn't tell you what I thought was healthy and not healthy. Now,
no, I agree with that.
No,
I agree
with Debbie's. But I think it's an evolving as we're learning.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I agree. It's confusing to know what to eat, but it is not confusing to know what not to eat. Okay. Like, if I go on a pizza diet, am I going to be healthy?
No.
No. If I go
even though I like pizza.
If I go on a McDonald's diet, am I going to be healthy?
No.
Okay.
No.
If I drink Cokes 10 times a day, am I going to be healthy?
No.
If I drink a 6-pack of beer every night, am I going to be healthy?
No.
So if you need me to tell you that,
I get it.
There's some non-negotiables when it comes to being healthy, right? That may be a little harsh. I don't know.
That's good. That's good. Second pillar of health.
Oh, you just want to move past
We're going
that.
to move on. We got 10 to go through.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Number 2, eliminate vegetable oils. Okay, we've had a podcast on this. I think that this is so important, but so not taught. Okay, so we've talked about, well, let's just go through what vegetable oils we're talking about. Which ones do we need to eliminate? And then I'll go why. Which ones do we need to eliminate? What are the bad ones out there?
Well, there's so many trick words out there. So first of all, vegetable oils don't have vegetables in them.
Yeah, it's kind of
misnomer. So anything that's advertised as a vegetable oil, Crisco, I stay away from this stuff. So
corn
oil,
soybean oil,
safflower, canola,
sunflower. Rapeseed oil, I think also. That's the same thing as canola.
Rapeseed oil, same thing as canola. Anything named rapeseed.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Probably should stay away from that.
Here's the problem with these things is
peanut oil.
Peanut oil, yep. Now, it's the way that they extract the oil out of the seeds, and they have to use a lot of high temperature and a lot of chemicals and solvents, and it makes these oils very inflammatory. And they're put in everything. So if you pick up, I give you a little challenge, go pick up a box of cereal, go get you a granola bar, go get you anything
protein
that's
bar,
processed and packaged.
Yeah.
And it's going to have 3 things in it. Okay? It's going to have sugar, it's going to have some kind of vegetable oil, and usually a wheat product.
Yeah.
Okay? The vegetable oil, what it does is, number 1, it's inflammatory in our body. Number 2, lots of data going to show that when it gets in our body, not only does it cause the inflammation, but our body can't burn the fat because it's a fat, and it actually causes insulin resistance. There's a lot of cool data that's just coming out on this. So I feel like personally, it's driving a lot of our obesity epidemic in America. Now there's a lot of other, the sugars, the component, and things like that, but that's part of it.
Yeah, so let's briefly talk about why that stuff is a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it used so ubiquitously? Why is it in everything?
It's cheap.
Well, 2 reasons: shelf stability, and cheap.
It's cheap,
right? So my wife makes some of the best chocolate chip cookies in the world, and it's the only cookie I'll eat is the cookies that my wife bakes. But
they're pretty good. I can testify.
But there's an ingredient in this cookie that is kind of a non-negotiable. It's Crisco, right? Because every grandma in the country is going to tell you things just cook different.
They advertise it that way.
Yeah,
when they first came out with that,
yeah.
yes, they created a whole cookbook.
Yeah. Well, the entire country still thinks that.
Yeah, fried chicken.
Yeah. So like I said,
So how many times a year do you have an inflammatory bomb in your body?
1. It used to be 2, but she's gotten a little stingy with her cookie making, and that's a pretty bad day.
Yeah.
But it's 1 day.
You know what I've seen is wearing a glucose monitor. If I do something like that, I eat something with these inflammatory oils, something fried at a restaurant. Okay, most of these restaurants use it. All fast food restaurants use this stuff. My body becomes insulin resistant for days because of these.
Yeah, I think it just paralyzes the body's processes.
Yeah.
And there's one thing I did take away from Garth Davis's book, the Proteinaholic, is there are so many foods out there that we call those nasty carbohydrates, like a donut, right? And if you need me to tell you donuts are unhealthy, we got problems, right? Donuts are not healthy. But would you call a donut a high carbohydrate food or a high fat food?
Ooh, it's tricky. You think it's sugar and carbs, but it's
over 50% fat.
Cooked in vegetable.
Yeah. So we can sit around and debate what's healthy as a diet, like a approach, a lifestyle. What carnivore, high protein, high fat, low carb, vegan, vegetarian. But there is one thing that is known to be true, because there's no truth, there's no absolute truth to that conversation, but there is one absolute truth. What is the most unhealthy diet you can eat?
You put carbs and fat and unhealthy fat together, those are the bad
Yeah,
combination.
high carb, high fat diet will
Yeah.
kill you quicker than anything in the world. Will give
Yeah.
you more cancer, more dementia. And what is the standard American diet?
Those two.
It's a high fat, high carbohydrate diet.
Yeah, which I talked to you about. If you look at processed food, it has sugar, vegetable oils, and it has some kind of wheat product, which is a refined wheat product. So it's got the deadly combination.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to mention one thing we didn't touch on sugar, how addictive it is. Okay.
Yes.
I don't want to go back too much, but I always throw this study out.
We're just going one back, so.
Because people have a hard time breaking sugar, and it's because it's addictive. And so,
Well, I think two reasons people have a problem kicking sugar. Number one, it's addictive, but then you come up with the plan like I'm going to quit it, right?
mhm.
But can you? And what prevents us from quitting? Because I'll give a pretty typical story. Like, hey, I cut it out, but then I got hangry. I get shaky, right?
Yeah.
And so what's happened there is your years of eating the standard American diet that we were just casting evil shades on, your body completely loses the ability to utilize fat for energy.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of mechanisms that go into that. We could talk about adiponectin and leptin insensitivity. But baseline, you don't have the machinery to create energy by breaking down fat, right? So, there's
So you get addicted to sugar because you need the carbs all the
because you
time. You need the
crash.
glucose. Yeah.
Yeah, like if I don't eat it, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel great, so therefore I don't quit it. And then if I push it a little bit further, I kind of get through those. Man, I'm hangry. So then I get the keto flu, right? So now I've wiped out all the sugar, and my body really still has not caught up with the ability to break down fat and make it into energy. You feel like snot for a couple weeks, right? And the further you are overweight and the longer you've been there, the longer that process takes, right? Have you had a patient say, I tried that keto, it didn't work?
Mm-hmm. A lot.
Right?
Yeah.
So in a person that has to lose 100 pounds, I mean, how long would you, and I'm not advertising ketosis as the pursuit here, but how long do you think it would take somebody to go through a keto effort to actually get into ketosis?
This is the hard part. So let me give you my personal example. So I became insulin resistant because I thought I was eating healthy the past few years. All right. I was eating way more sugar than I should have, a lot more carbs, because I remember I told you I could handle carbs better.
Genetically, you were gifted.
Yeah. So I realized I was insulin resistant. It's taken me 1 year to truly reset my insulin resistance.
1 year. And you
So-
were what, 20 pounds overweight?
And I felt I'm relatively healthy. So that's the hard part of this. And so a lot of, I think, patients, when they need to lose 100 pounds, their body is so metabolically broken, it takes a long time. And it takes effort. Not to mean that it's absolutely worth it. Because when you start breaking a lot of these habits and getting this out of your life, you feel so much better. And that's what drives me.
Yeah.
It's not a weight on a scale. It's more every day I get up, I'm like, when I eat good, I feel awesome. When I eat bad now, I feel bad. That's what drives me to want to make that decision every day of eating healthy. Agree?
Agree.
Okay, well,
Did we hammer the oils well?
a little bit. I don't want to go too far into this, but when we're eating these vegetable oils, our omega-6 to omega-3 ratio also goes out of whack. We do know that drives the higher the omega-6 intake, which is the I'd call it the bad fat. Omega-3 is the good fat. That a lot of these seed oils have more omega-6 in them. So
Yeah, they're completely omega-6. And not only are they higher omega-6, but they're higher destabilized, oxidized fatty acids, omegas. So just briefly, because I think this has a lot to do with our health in America, has a lot to do with why a lot of people didn't do well with a virus that came through recently in the past 2 years, is that both omega-6 and omega-3 are necessary to live.
Yeah.
You have to have both of them, right? Your body does not make them. You have to eat them. If you don't eat either one of them, you will not do well. Your brain will shrivel. And
our brain's made up of 25% of these things.
Yeah,
they're very simple.
So ideally, in the way our body functions, that ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 would be probably 2 to 1, 3 to 1.
Ideally 1 to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
or 4 to 1.
and recently I've come to conclude that's
It's probably 4 to 1.
not a reliable goal to tell people to chase. But it should be a 2 to 1, 3 to 1 ratio. And currently in America, the average person is probably getting at the minimum of 14 to 1 to a 40 to 1.
Yeah.
And what that means, so omega-6s are very important for your inflammatory process. And the inflammatory process is necessary. That's how we turn over cells. That's how we deal with illnesses. That's how you need it, right? So we need to have it, but we get way too much of it. So do you think that body just stores it up, or does it just create a lot of inflammation?
So my answer to that, omega-6s, it creates a lot of inflammation, but then they're harder to burn when they're in that inflammatory state.
Right.
Keep going.
Then the omega-3s they break down into the anti-inflammatory process. So ideally, the way God designed it was you had some inflammation going on, you had some anti-inflammation going on, and those dudes just duked it out and kept it stable.
Now we're like always inflamed.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're consuming is a lot of more omega-6s now.
Correct.
So this is not a routine test that we do.
Should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
I wish on every one of our patients we could check this, but insurance doesn't pay for it usually. Okay.
Yeah.
But we check patients, and most of them are that 15 to 1, 14 to 1.
At the minimum.
And if you're able to correct that, that is one way in your diet that you can help with not only inflammation, but also helping you lose weight. So what do you do to correct your omega-6 to omega-3 profile?
Well, I eat a lot of wild-caught fish.
Okay.
Specifically, emphasis on wild-caught fish.
Yeah.
Because fish in general that you buy at the supermarket is not wild-caught.
It's farm-raised.
It's farm-raised.
What's it fed, Bo?
Usually corn.
Okay, which is what? High in what?
Omega-6.
So it's not necessarily as healthy for you as a wild-caught.
Yeah. Now, even a farm-raised fish is still a better option than a pizza. So
Sure.
call that spectrum eating.
Yeah.
But the absolute best choice when it comes to fish is something that's wild-caught.
Yeah. And that's what I hope we do is we teach patients how to truly shop.
Yeah.
I mean, okay,
Well,
keep going.
Well, the biggest eye-opener there for me was at the Atlantic salmon, right? You go to the supermarket, that's the salmon. It says Atlantic salmon. So I started scratching my head like, well, where do you catch salmon in the Atlantic at? Well, you don't. There's no such thing as an Atlantic salmon. It means it was raised in a farm.
So I've been duped all these years?
Yeah. So there's Atlantic salmon never have seen the sea, ever. Like that's code word for it was put into a farm. And then I supplement omega-3, usually from an algae source or a seaweed source.
I use Thorn. They have a good omega-3 supplement. Another thing is cutting all the vegetable oils out of your diet. And then anything green. So anything green, algae, kale, anything green has a lot of omega-3. That's where it comes from. And then another thing is meat choices. So we'll get to that in just a minute, but choosing meats that are pasture-raised, grass-finished, dairy that's grass-finished, the omega profile tends to be better in those.
It does.
All right, so how are we doing on pillars of health? How are we doing?
We got one more pillar.
So we can get through 3. We'll have to leave.
It's a 3-part series.
Three-part series. So my third one is well-sourced, regeneratively grown, organically grown foods. And why is that important? Because we're trying to keep these guardrails. So when you go to the grocery store, trying to buy the highest quality food you can. So why do we advocate this, Bo? Or why do you choose pasture-raised, organically grown? Is there a health benefit to that?
Well, I mean, there's a tremendous health benefit. I mean, we just kind of covered one of the biggest one is the omega content.
Correct.
The omega-6 to omega-3. Animals raised in confinement. We'll start with animals first, right? So whether it be a pig, a chicken, a turkey, a cow, a goat, Most goats aren't.
No.
Are there any factory
think
confined
so.
goats? Yeah,
I think
sheep.
they're kind of wild.
Yeah, they're wild. That's probably the reason they're better for you. But anything that's raised in a confined setting is going to be supplementally fed,
Mostly
something
all
to make
grain.
it grow really fast,
Yeah. And all grain.
right?
Yeah.
So you're naturally going to have a more inflamed piece of meat than you would if it was raised like it was meant to be raised.
Yeah. Because that omega profile is so different. So when you're having them eat nothing but grain, corn to be finished, versus they're out there in the pasture grazing on green forage, that omega-3 profile comes way up. So that's the difference.
Yeah, and I mean, we're skipping over a bunch of other things that go into that meat, but I'd say that's the biggest one would be the omega profile of the meat. And we're not even talking about pesticides and the term organic and things of that nature. But, you know, if the cow out behind grandma's house on the ranch is going to be a much healthier product than something you buy traditionally from the store. Now, we're talking healthy. Do you want to comment taste difference?
Oh, yeah. So I think a few things. One, I think we're finding that if it's not organically grown or regeneratively grown, there's a lot of either pesticides, herbicides, toxins in there. One of them is a big one called Roundup. We're starting to see the health detriment of that product is big. And I could go through all of that. We could do a podcast on that. The CDC did this analysis recently. They tested urine from, I think, 1,000 individuals. 80% of us tested positive for Roundup in our urine.
You want to talk about what that does, or save that for
It's a
another
weed
podcast?
killer. It's a universal weed
But
killer.
what does it do to your body?
So, let's go through. So, number one, it decimates your gut. So it actually is an antibiotic. That's what originally it was. So it kills off most of the good bacteria in your gut. So we'll get to that. That's pillar number 4, gut health. Number 2 is it goes in and it has a lot of endocrine effects on all of us. It affects our liver.
Endocrine, when we talk about endocrine, thyroid, adrenal,
Estrogen,
pancreas.
testosterone. Yeah. So in men, it makes them more feminine or more estrogen production. In women, it makes them more masculine, more testosterone. So it does the opposite of that. There's actually a known that it causes a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So we know there's some cancer-causing effects of it. Also, they've been shown that they did this study on mice. Okay, they took mice, they got Roundup. Okay, so the generations that were born, subsequent generations, okay, they gave it to the mom mouse, they took it away. The generations became more obese with time, even though they weren't exposed to it. It's an interesting phenomenon. So there may be an obesity causing principle in it.
And from my understanding, it affects one of the 7 steps of the electron transport chain.
I believe
Like
you're right.
step 3, which don't get me to go through the 7 steps of the electron transport chain right now.
So
but therefore, you can't produce energy.
So metabolically, it can help hurt your metabolism.
Yeah, because we've talked about that. You know, people come in and say, my thyroid's out of whack. I don't have a metabolism. Yeah. And I think differently. I think you agree with me that your metabolism is not how much energy you burn. It's how much energy you can produce, right? On a baseline, how much energy am I going to produce in a day? Because that's what then goes and gets burned off, and we exhale carbon dioxide. That's how we measure it. So if you have a low metabolism, it doesn't mean that you're not, I mean, it does, but you're not, it's not that you can't burn a lot, it's that your body can't physically produce it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does that make
your
sense?
energy level's low, you don't want to do much.
So you have to ask yourself, how much does the junk in our diet affect that?
A lot.
Yeah.
2 other things I want to mention is when you're searching for foods that are grown regeneratively, they're grown on healthier soils, okay? And when they are, we know this, that the vegetables or the animals are more nutrient dense. For example, there's some studies that showed that A carrot has more calcium. It has more beta carotene, significantly more. Same thing with the beef that's grazed on those healthier soils. They have basically, I was losing my thought, more phytonutrients. So there's some secondary compounds in that those animals are consuming in the forage on the healthier soils that ultimately get in our body and help with inflammation and help with other things that we haven't even been able. This is stuff that's not measured at the grocery store. We're just starting to do it in research, but we're starting to see that there's a huge element that's missing in our diet based off how we've changed how we produce our food. And so doing it on a massive scale, quick, get these animals, put them in confinement, give them a lot of grain, get them, big, quick. We're missing lots of good nutritional value.
Yeah.
And so
be
wise when you choose stuff.
I've made this comment before, so hopefully it'll probably be a T-shirt for too long. But our problem is we're overfed, but undernourished.
Yeah.
Right. So we get lots of food that has nothing in it, and that's our baseline problem. And so, all right. To sum this up, because I think there's been a lot of conversation around the cost of being healthy. Like, all right, well, I don't buy those healthy foods because they're too expensive. Or I don't go see that health coach because it's too expensive. Or I don't go do this because it's too expensive. What are your thoughts on that statement?
Here's my answer is yes, it is. It is. I think healthier food is more expensive. Is it worth it? Every penny.
Yeah.
Because number one, I'm preventing a lot of medical issues long term that I'm going to have to pay for if I am short-sighted and I eat crappy food.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number two is I feel better. My quality of life when I'm eating healthier, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm not a statistician, and I'm marginally okay at math. But when you think about, if I'm sick, so if I have diabetes or sleep apnea or so the amount of work I lose in my career, in my ages of production, medical expenses occurred, and then just the length of my career in general, and my upward mobility. If I'm a well-functioning, healthy human, right? I think we'd all agree that if you show up to work and you're never sick, the likelihood you're going to progress in your job is probably higher than if you have diabetes, right? And I'm not pointing this out to say there's discrimination, and that's a whole different topic. People that get judged because they have to go to the doctor, but the baseline facts are the facts. If you're a healthy human and your brain's popping every day and you're on your toes and you're thinking about things, you got more chances, right? So to me, when people say, well, I can't afford, or I can't afford vitamins, or I can't afford to buy that organic this or that, two things to say there. Number one, if that's not where you're at, don't make that your priority. But still pick healthy foods. Yeah. Like I would take a grain-fed, CAFO-produced cow any day over the frozen lasagna in the freezer aisle, right? So like I've said, that's spectrum eating. Like, am I eating the organic, completely grass-fed, grass-finished cow from this ranch? No, I can't afford that. Okay, well, all right, that's not where you're at. Don't give up because of that. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
I had another point in there.
You come back to number two. So one story that sticks out to me is Sean Stevenson. So a health and wellness guru that he told his story. Basically, he lived in Detroit, I believe. Poverty. But basically, at the age of 24, he broke his back, I think. And it was because of malnutrition.
Yeah, he's running track. Like he was a track star,
and he realized that it was all about the food choices that he was making. And he didn't have the money to necessarily buy these healthier things that we're offering or recommending, but he realized, you know what? I'm going to make it a priority in my life to buy healthier food, whether it be organic. And it was a choice of his in his situation that ultimately got him to where he is today. And to me, he's one of the most relevant people in this sphere. And so it's all about priorities. And sometimes we do maybe have to make sacrifices in other parts of our life, but our health, I think, is one of the most highest priorities we should make. Because if you don't feel good, life's pretty hard to live. All right, you want to stop with that?
Call it good for today?
Yeah,
Come
we've
back
got a
for
lot more
part two,
pillars
part
to go
three.
through. We'll do it next time.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.